Quasi here, and in this video I want to share with you the biggest reason why entrepreneurs fail with their businesses and how I almost fail with my business. Okay, this lesson was probably the most valuable lesson I learned in the year of 2020. I want to share it with you, and also I want to give you the 3 keys to help you implement this lesson. Okay, so I want you to stick around to the very end of this video because we're really going to dive deep into the successful entrepreneur's mind, and what really differentiates the successful one from the unsuccessful one. Before I begin this video, I want to quickly announce that spots are now open for the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery Program. Just wait till the end of the video for the announcement on how to sign up for that. And with that, let's get started. So today I want to talk to you about the biggest reason why entrepreneurs fail with their businesses, and it has to do with clarity and purpose. So if you're someone who's a business owner, maybe you've just started out or you've already been in business for a very long time, but you're finding that it's fluctuating now. You know, you're not doing as well as you did before, then this could be the reason why. Now, what I want you to know is nowadays in society, most people are trained. We've become conditioned to copy and replicate, okay? So we've become conditioned to copy others. And if you look at the market, a lot of products just bear crazy resemblances. Some are just blatant fakes, like copycats, right? And when this happens, the market actually strays away from truth and moves towards and optimizes for replication, okay? It doesn't optimize for truth anymore, but for replication. So to give you an example, if you go to school, they'll teach you how to, copy and do stuff that's a curriculum, and you basically just follow instructions. Jobs teach you how to follow instructions as well. You report to some employer, the employer reports to some employer. Only the person at the top is actually dictating and making those big decisions for the company, right? So society actually trains us to follow instructions. And because we get into this instruction following mindset, we can't think of innovative solutions for ourselves. We always look to what someone else has done and try to copy and mimic that, right? So this can, at a certain level, don't get me wrong, this is important when you're starting off to have foundations, but we're gonna get right into when to copy and when to not copy as well by the end of this video. But that's what I want you to know first of all. We get trained to copy. Now, what you gotta know about the market in business is just supply and demand, right? If someone wants your service and needs your service, they'll pay for it. But the market is dynamic. It's not static. It's always changing. It's never going to be the same. Trends change, people change, everything changes. People get rich because they can predict trends. Only those who can predict the future get rich, right? That's basic stock market 101. If you have information no one else has, you're going to get rich. So the market is very, very dynamic. But the problem is, if people start copying each other, they're not adapting to the market, they're adapting to copying. So that's the biggest problem with copying. Now, I've seen this happen with myself. And what essentially happens is you get into competition focused, right? So you look at what other people are doing, maybe people who are similar to you, what they're doing and what's working for them, and then you start to copy them without actually understanding, wait a second, this could actually break what's already working. Instead of actually giving it thoughtful consideration, you blindly copy. I saw that this was the biggest killer for me because in school, whenever I stopped thinking and started copying, I started to fail exams. When I started to memorize things, I started to fail my engineering exams. But what happened was I then realized what was going on, and then I actually made an effort to think and to persevere on a problem, even though it's difficult. So if you look at society now, most people just don't even want to think. They don't want to use their brains. Everything right now, all the foods, all the junk foods, all the dopamine spiking activities, all the social media, all the entertainment, it's getting us into zombie-like mode, right? It's getting us into this perpetual zombie mode where you're brain dead. We're just walking around brain dead, not making these choices for ourselves, but rather allowing everything else to make these choices for us. And then we complain about why our lives aren't going our way, right? So this is the general problem with society right now, why most people are just following some predictated path for them. And this brings me to a concept called pendulums. Okay? A pendulum is a collective structure that's built with collective thought energy. So to give you an example, supporters of a sports team are part of a pendulum. Followers of some religion are part of a pendulum. Okay? Whenever you're part of a pendulum and you succumb to a collective ideology, that pendulum now has your energy. It can suck your energy. Okay? So the biggest pendulum right now is societal conditioning, you having to adhere to certain laws in society. So pendulums aren't all bad. Even though they suck your energy, they're not all that bad because there are constructive ones and destructive ones. But the problem is we're mostly never able to discern one from the other, right? So what I want to share with you in this video is how to follow your own path and just get unstuck, get less sticky from pendulums and just walk your own path, which is the path that's going to help you become successful in business, but ultimately help you have a more fulfilling life. Okay? So true freedom comes when you follow your own path. Now you might be wondering, Kwasi, how do I find my own path? Well, that's something you've got to discern for yourself. You've got to look at what you really want for your life, And if you've had everything, what does life look like? So we're going to get right into that in a second, but I want to share with you that the solution to this is following your own path rather than some path society has laid out for you. If you follow a path that society has laid out for you, you're going to grow more and more miserable because in your mind, you're always going to be trapped in a prison. Okay? This is always going to be something that you didn't choose to do. And now let's get to the final point of following a proven system versus reinventing the wheel. Because a lot of people who sell business programs talk about this, right? They say, well, you should just follow this proven system that's already worked instead of reinventing the wheel. And instead of doing one or the other, you've got to do both. What has worked for me is doing both. What do I mean by that? In a system where there's two opposing ideologies, one that brings a balance between the two is going to be the optimal solution. That's personally what I've found. So you balance using a proven system with reinventing the wheel, and you produce your own unique solution, because it's never going to be one size fits all, right? I can give someone a diet, but they're going to follow it differently than another person. The same diet won't work for another person. Each person has their own body and its own needs, right? Each person learns differently. So while one thing might have more effect on one person, it might not have the same level of effect on another. I hope that makes sense. So what you've got to do is learn to take a proven system and see the parts that have actually worked by trying it out yourself, and double down more on what works and experiment with what you think could work. So a general principle that I use is the 80-20 principle that's always served me. 80% of the time I'm doing what's proven. 20% of the time I'm doing and experimenting new things. Okay? Now this is probably not equal at different stages in your life. So for example, in the year of 2021, there could be 80% experimentation and 20% doing what's proven. Right? But in the year 2022, it could be completely different. But the average of it is just 80-20. Okay? Most of the time it's 80-20. I'm 80% doing what's proven, 20% what I'm testing out. Because if you don't test out, you're going to always become static. You're always going to be optimizing for what's already working, and you're not going to be able to adapt to a growing market. Okay? So this is how I've crafted my own path. You've got to understand what your own path is and follow that. So the 80-20 is something that's worked for me. Okay? So there's the balance between using a proven system versus reinventing the wheel for yourself. Obviously, if you are just starting off, you can't reinvent the wheel because you don't understand the structure. Imagine you're learning the alphabet and you start to invent your own fucking alphabets. You're never gonna, let's say you're learning to write prose and you're writing like a novel, but you don't even know the alphabets. You've got to learn the rules first and how to structure clauses and sentences and paragraphs before you can start to mess around with literary devices, right? So there's that. Learn the structure. Now let's talk about the solution to this, how to organically follow your own path and achieve this sort of freedom from pendulums, okay? Twofold solution, really. Number one is something Steve Jobs calls clean thinking. It's when you take something very, very complex and you just break it down into more simple solutions. And how you achieve clean thinking is when you get freedom from all of these pendulums. So if you take some time off, and you just disconnect yourself from society, from social media, you're going to truly understand for yourself what this means. So, for a week or so, take some time off, go somewhere remote, if it's possible, maybe in a couple of days. And don't do anything, just be. Don't try to do anything or make any noise or talk much. Just stay in silence and just ponder. And you'll get to this place of clean thinking when there isn't that much clutter in your mind. That's number one. When you achieve the level of clean thinking, you'll be able to discern between what really the market needs versus just copying something over and over again. Because it's easy to see these shiny objects. That's the most dangerous thing of them all, right? You see a shiny object which could work, but you already have something that is working, but you're like, oh, but that could work better. And then you get distracted by that. This is why Bill Gates takes that think week, where he just isolates himself for a whole week to research and look at the future and make his own decisions and his own conclusions from his own research, rather than following what someone else is saying. Because it's even more dangerous now because of how discourse has changed. It's with television, media, social media, and you can't discern from what's true from what's false. Everything appears real because everything emotionally spikes you. Someone's opinion emotionally spikes you, right? That's number one. Number two is finding clarity around your own life's purpose, which is actually the foundational thing. If you don't know what you want for your life, you're never going to be able to create anything, because you're just going to go in all different directions. You're going to get distracted by everything. And if you don't stand for anything, you're going to fall for, what's the saying? If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, right? Finding clarity around what you actually want and reasoning via first principles. This is something Elon Musk talks about, but it's essential because when you reason via first principles, you give up reasoning via analogy. Most people reason via analogy. Oh, one person said this, so it must be bad. Investigate for yourself. Accept nothing, okay? Don't accept anything. Reason for yourself, explore and experience for yourself. If you're wanting to, join a program and you're like, oh, it seems good. I'm seeing a lot of great results about it. But then one person's like, oh, it's bad. Join the program anyways. See for yourself. Give it a try. Yeah, that's reasoning via first principles. Not listening to what others are saying and using that as ultimate truth, but making these conclusions for yourself by breaking everything down to its fundamental truth. I actually made a video about this. If you click up here, you can check it out. It's the difference between reasoning via first principles and reasoning via analogy. But I go much deeper into that. And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Let's do a quick recap of what we talked about today. Essentially, we talked about the biggest reason why entrepreneurs fail, right? And I see just people copying each other left and right and not having any sort of organic thought about it. And why this happens is because we get trained by society to follow, instead of leading, instead of going our own paths. If you go your own path, you create your own pendulum. And we also talked about the concept of a pendulum, which is a collective like-minded structure that feeds off this like-minded thinking. So a group of people who have the same ideologies form a pendulum. This pendulum structure, it's just an energetic structure. It forms by itself. It's not like something you can see. It's invisible, but it's through resonant thought frequencies that it forms, and it sucks energy. There can be constructive or destructive pendulums. And the biggest problem with copying is that the market is dynamic. If you can't organically form thought, then you're always going to be subject to copying, and replicating. That's what you're going to optimize for. And true freedom is when you follow your own path. In order to follow your own path, you've got to be clear on what you want. At least begin with what you think you want. Most people are afraid to do that. They think that what they want is bad and it's wrong. They judge themselves for wanting something. Don't judge yourself. It's what you want. It's fine. It's okay. Allow yourself to want that. Let that be. And we discern the difference between a proven system versus reinventing the wheel. Do both. Don't just follow one or the other. It's got to be a good balance between the two. Because if you don't find your innovative solution, you're always going to be subject to copycatism, right? And the two solutions are forming clean thinking by not being influenced by anything. These feed into each other. Clean thinking, clarity around what you want, what your goals are, and reasoning via first principles, breaking everything down to their fundamental assumptions. What's the fundamental assumption that you can make? Oh, gravity, right? So that's a fundamental assumption. You can't break it down any further. So taking something, breaking it down into its fundamental assumptions, and then building up from there rather than listening to analogy and hearsay. Okay? With that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And I'm also excited to announce that spots for the Reality Mastery Consult are now open. Just click on the link in the description below to sign up, and you'll get on a call with one of my coaches, and we'll see if there's any way we can help you take your business to the next level by changing your internal world. Who we typically work with are people who have established businesses, and what they're seeing is they're just stuck. They have inconsistent revenue. One month they go up, next month they go down, or they can't get to the level that they want to get to, and it's because internally they're experiencing a blockage. Right? Internally, it's their mindset that's the problem. They doubt themselves. They're not confident about their offer. And the same pattern keeps going on over and over again. That sounds like you. Click on the link in the description to sign up, and I hope I see you there. And the free Facebook group is open for you to take advantage of as well. The link for that is in the description too. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time. Peace!